this is Rev Trev. Once again, we're going to continue with our devotions out of Matthew 5. And so we found that the king is teaching the greatest sermon known to man, the Sermon on the Mount, and the king is sharing kingdom principles with the people. And so this morning we're looking at verse 33. It says, "Again you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, do not break your oath, but keep the oaths you have made to the Lord." Now, when we think of oaths, I don't know, but me, myself, I always think of someone standing in a courtroom. They have to testify, and they stand there, and the person puts the Bible there and says, "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God?" And so that's when I think of an oath made. Now, what was happening in the days of Jesus was that people were making oaths left, right, and center. And they were making oaths, I swear by heaven, or I swear by earth, or I swear by my granny. And so the important thing to them was, as long as you didn't swear by the Lord, you could break an oath. Only when you swore by the Lord were you to keep this oath. And if I think back when we were kids, somebody would say, "Swear to me, you're going to tell me the truth." And what we would do is we would cross our fingers, and then we would swear to tell the truth, and we would then not keep our words, and the person would say, "You lied to me," and we would say, No, I crossed my fingers, so I didn't really mean it." And so this is the issue that we are dealing with here. And so Jesus in verse 34 and 35 says, "But I tell you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by earth, for it's God's footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king." And so Jesus says, at first, this is what the people said. Now Jesus is going to tell the truth. "But I tell you." And so verse 33 started, "Again you have heard." And why does he use the word again? Because it's not the first time this has been said. As we've done the study, we found this wording. "You have heard, do not commit murder. But I tell you, anyone who is angry with his brother is subject to judgment. You have heard, do not commit adultery. But I tell you, anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has committed adultery. You have heard, anyone who divorces his wife is to give her a bill of divorce. But Jesus says, anyone who divorces his wife except for marital unfaithfulness causes her to be an adulteress." And so here we find that Jesus says, do not swear. Now, to swear means to make a promise in the presence of God. And the one example that I can think of is when I marry people. I always, when it comes to the marriage vows, I say to them, today you're not only making your marriage vows to one another, but you are making it in the presence of your family and friends. But more important than that is you are making these vows in the presence of God. And so when the person says, "For better or for worse, until death us do part," what the person is saying, "God, I will stay with this person till I die, and if I don't, deal with me." So we find that making an oath was allowed in the Bible because God himself made an oath. In Genesis 22:16, "By myself I have sworn, says the Lord, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son." God swearing to Abraham, he says, because you've done this, you would show him great favor. In Genesis 24:2-3, it says, "Abraham said to his senior servant in his household, the one in charge of all that he had, 'Put your hand under my thigh. I want you to swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I am living.'" So he makes his servant swear that he will get his son a wife from his own people. And then we find an example where someone does not keep an oath is Peter. Peter says, "I will never ever deny you, Lord." And this we find in Matthew 26:69, it says, now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. You also were with Jesus of Galilee, she said. But he denied it before them all. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. Then he went out to the gateway, where another girl saw him and said to the people there, this fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth. He denied it again with an oath. I don't know the man. After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, surely you are one of them, for your accent gives you away. Then he began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, I don't know the man. So the first time we find Peter denies. The second time he denies it with an oath. The third time he denies it by speaking, by cursing and by swearing. God is my witness, I don't know this man, and his language that he uses. Friends, in the Bible we find that some made foolish oaths. And one of the examples of this is Judges 11. It says, and Jephthah made a vow to the Lord, if you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. And we find God gives him the victory. When he comes home, his daughter comes out to meet him, and he says, oh, you've caused me sorrow because I made an oath. And she asked her father then that she can spend 2 months because she's a virgin with her friends. And we find that she then returns. So that was a foolish oath that this man made. You swear, one could only swear by God's name. Deuteronomy 6:13 says, fear the Lord your God, serve him only, and take your oath in his name. Jeremiah 12:16 says, and if they will learn well the ways of my people and swear by my name, saying, as surely as the Lord lives, even as they once taught my people to swear by Baal, then they will be established amongst my people. And here we find God not only speaks to the Jews to make an oath in the name of the Lord, but even the Gentiles through the prophet Jeremiah. And so then we find here that Jesus says, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by earth, for it is God's footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. So what's Jesus saying here? Jesus says, stop swearing the way you are. You cannot swear by heaven, as it's God's throne. You cannot swear by the earth, for it's God's footstool. You cannot swear by Jerusalem, for it's his city. It's the city of the great King. They were trying to swear not by God's name, but by saying, I swear by heaven. Well, Jesus is saying, well, that's mine. Heaven is mine. By the earth is mine. By Jerusalem, it's mine. So you're saying, stop swearing foolishly. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black. And so the Lord is saying again, you cannot swear by your head, as God controls your head. God knows the hairs on your head. Everything belongs to God. And so at the end, the Lord gives the answer. And what he says is, verse 37, he says, simply let your yes be yes and your no, no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. You see, we should never have the motive in our heart to swear by something and not wanting to keep our word. When we swear, when we make an oath, we should have the intention of keeping it. And so for me, it's so sad today that we cannot, like years ago, people could shake hands when they made a deal. When two men came together and they were going to do business, they would shake hands. That was just as good as a contract. Today, everything has to be by a contract, because people will say, well, you cannot trust someone else. You have to cover yourself. Whereas before, people could do this. You see, there's people that I know who I completely trust. There's people that I know, if they say to me, Trevor, I will do this, or I will show up, or I will, help you, then I know that their word is their word. And so I know tomorrow, if they say they're coming tomorrow, they're going to do it. If they say they're going to do something, they do it, because they stand by their word. Yet there are people who cannot always be trusted. And I'm not always speaking about unbelievers. I'm speaking about believers who say they'll do something, and then you doubt, will it happen or will it not happen? And so, friends, if we are truly believers, the Lord is saying, our yes should be yes and our no should be no. And so what the Lord is saying in this passage is, don't always just swear by everything. You shouldn't have to say, I swear I'll do this, or I swear I'll do that. We should be able to, people should be able to count on us and know that our word means something. So yes is your yes. Your no is your no. He's saying, when it comes to really something of importance, then you can swear by the Lord. But it shouldn't just be a common occurrence, because your yes is your yes. This has been Rev Trev. I trust this has helped you. Now what I need you to do is, I need you to obviously sit with your partner or the person there and say to them, can I be trusted? Am I a person of my word? And your partner must be able to say to you yes or no. And you must ask, your partner must be able to ask you that question. And if you're not someone that can be trusted, friends, then we're not doing right by God. So make sure your yes is your yes. God bless you. This is Rev Trev.